Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending our virtual Photo Voice Gallery. My name is Ann Cheney. I'm a professor in the School of Medicine at UC Riverside. I am excited to share with you what we have learned from community members about the effects of the Salton Sea on children's health. This is what we've learned. Asthma is the most common chronic condition among children in the U.S., with estimates indicating that nearly 10% of the U.S. child population suffers from asthma. Yet we know that risk varies by socioeconomic status and environmental exposures. A unique example of this is among Latino children living along the Salton Sea. The Salton Sea is a highly saline lake in the desert region of inland Southern California. More than 20% of children along the Salton Sea have asthma. This is double what we see across the state and nation. Carriers of this child population are often Latino mothers. Some of them may also identify as being members of the Purépecha community. This is an indigenous group from the state of Michoacán in Mexico. These caregivers may have limited proficiency in English, which makes it hard for them to communicate with healthcare providers who often speak English only. These caregivers also live in a rural area and have limited access to healthcare services. Some may choose to drive more than 100 miles and travel across the U.S.-Mexico border to bring their children or have family bring their children to healthcare services in Mexico. Our project builds the capacity of this caregiver group to partner in research that will address their children's healthcare needs. We invite caregivers of children with asthma and related chronic health conditions, healthcare providers, medical students, environmental advocacy groups, and concerned citizens to join us in our work. Thank you, and enjoy our virtual gallery.
If you can see the photo of how that steam looks at the end, I don't know if it's steam, cold, or hot. In reality, I really don't know what it is, but it is quite shocking. That day, it smelled pretty bad and it was a little windy.
Climate change causes many changes in health. That day it was cloudy and he was there. This weather was also between cold and windy, and that's when he started to have snot. Well, it all happened very fast. The other day it was like the weather changed too, because it rained a little, more wind, more dust, and well, all that kind of unbalances them as well.
I want my son to be able to play outside within his own community. Well, this fire started in the community area, and that day there was a pretty bad fire that they couldn't put out. I saw that the firefighters were there, but the fire could not be controlled.
Yes, well, there you can see also that there is a sandstorm. A sandstorm, the dust is apart from the bad smell and will affect the girl.
Normally, too, sometimes the weather in the morning is very nice, sunny and normal, and in the afternoon, we get those winds with dust, and all this is like, well, it's the same as everything that attracts us. That day it was windy, and there was even a fire near here, and I was seeing a lot of smoke. The whole environment came together, and the children felt worse. The air came from the side of the lagoon towards where I live.
Here you can see that there is a fire near where I live, and I quickly brought the child inside. Inhaling dust is obviously going to damage your lungs and attack you.
The weather was calm, kind of hot, but it wasn't windy, and after about 20 minutes, it was already like that. There was too much wind. Well, it seems burned from the heat, and well, a lot of dirt too. So, well, like all that, I say one way or another, it has to affect something. Well, health too.
This day, we had a sandstorm.
In the photo, you can see how the sand gets through the windows even when they are closed. This happens in my daughter's room and in all rooms, but I took this photo in my daughter's room. It is a photo so you can see the way we live. In the way we live with our family. We live in a trailer, and we try to have the position more or less so that they have a little more different lifestyle to help them all manage everything. If we are near the lagoon, sometimes the smell comes very, very bad. Here comes the smell, like dead fish and all that. So I think all that affects them too. I took the photograph in the afternoon because that's when you can appreciate more the contamination of the fields because they are there. They start throwing away all the chemicals, and that's when the child starts coughing again.
No, because that represents what I have to have on hand all the time, making sure that these things aren't missing, like the vaporizer so that he can breathe better and the medicines for coughs and headaches. I have to make sure there is no shortage, and it is a very important part of taking care of children who are sick, to make sure the medications are always there. Yes, never be missing because an emergency will arise, and above all that, so he can breathe.
He is having chest pain, or as he recognizes it. When he feels that he is going to have a problem with asthma, he feels chest pain. So I have to keep an eye on his machine or ensure that the albuterol is administered correctly.
The weather is a very, very cool for him. He always likes to be outside, always, and always with his pet. I have a little dog because that helps them feel, as they say, as if it were a vacuum cleaner and they suck in the disease of asthma.
I took that photo because it is precisely the medicine the doctor gave him. He had an appointment in March, and he already had it because he was showing symptoms of a lot of constipation. His throat hurt. He felt tired. He told me that he felt like his chest was tight. So, well, they thought he had COVID or something, or the flu. I put it there that it represents the medicine that he was taking precisely in those days. This photo is all of her medication that she takes every day to prevent allergies and prevent asthma. I took that photo with him in the background because it is the medicine he takes. This is a photograph that speaks more than I can say. These are the medicines that he has to be taking. In that photo, I think it was explicit in that the child is blowing his nose with the Kleenex, which definitely did not happen in the other seasons of the year. I think it increased a lot. Well, really, as I said at the beginning, I was quite surprised that now with the spring or being more aware of it, maybe it happens on some other occasions, right? But I was not aware. Now that those photos were taken, it was exactly when spring comes and the child is sick, then you can clearly see where the child is sick. Yes, it's precisely a sneeze that it gives him, his runny nose. And I say it's allergy mucus because that's how the runny nose is. It's very transparent. It's not like some infection or something that I bring. That's how I tell him it's an allergy.
But normally, as always, it starts as clear mucus, for example, like the photo. And as the days go by like this, it worsens to look more like what is shown in the photo. That becomes like all the others, and a lot of mucus. And if he's sitting or something, he needs to get up constantly to cough and get rid of the phlegm. That's how he's given me a sign that he's already getting sick, because normally it starts with dark circles, so they're too noticeable.
This day, my child felt like he was out of breath, but he wasn't. It was because of a very, very strong wind, and it was like a sandstorm. So for him to feel better, because it is inevitable not to feel it on the ground, because even under the doors and the windows, there will be dust. My house got dirty, so that day I arrived at a friend's house. And we spent the day there, and you can see his little eyes were still swollen, but at least you can see his happy face.
This is the girl taking her medications. I need to give her medications daily and not take her outside. The inhaler, she shook it like that once and took a spray, and then it didn't show, but she also took her pills.
In hot weather and in windy weather, I practically don't take her out except for school because, well, they are children and they really want to be playing outside. It is due to the allergies and health problems they have. The day was, as you can see, in my daughter's hair, very windy, and obviously, well, I returned to the same thing because it is something very strong, even though she is wearing a face mask. It is a problem that she breathes all that, not just in respiration, but for her skin. From all the dust from the desert and everything about the lagoon, and above all, the fields that are in the air. I chose this photo because of the air and the allergies. There we put artificial grass that is clean. You can see it above the ear. It comes out in hot weather, and of course, what worries me is the ugly rash that turns white and is due to allergies.
Well, I already looked at it. The symptoms start locally on the skin. Seeing all this, it starts even on his head, on his body. Hives appear where he sweats.
Well, being exposed so strongly to that temperature, for example, you go outside and you're practically burning, and you get inside and it's cold. And, well, one doesn't know how that affects you internally, like the climate changes. Well, a change has to do with the fact that it also affects them because, for example, when we stop monitoring, that is exactly when it causes some type of change in them. And, well, I say that it has something to do with it. In this photograph, I see that it affects my son a little because the hot weather is arriving now. The hot air arrives, and at the same time, the air, and that raises the dust, as you can see here. Sometimes the child says that's where he sometimes can't breathe a little. So he is very hot, and all that makes him not able to breathe. That day, it was very windy, and as I had previously mentioned, when it is too windy, my daughter gets her problem. So I decided to take the photo because it is very windy, as it is a desert area. Immediately, the dust and sand accumulate, and it's too fine. It is so fine that it managed to enter the houses, through the windows, through the doors, even though they are very sealed, even though we do not really think that it is going to enter, and obviously, this is harmful to the children, but that's the case. It affected my daughter too much because I noticed it later on her face and her eyes started to water a lot.
This photograph shows that it is very windy and it is also cold. Yes, she gets worse because her bronchi becomes inflamed and she has to use an inhaler. Here we look at the little dog and part of the dirt. You can see the little dog that is in his pen, right? I selected this because he is allergic to dogs. So we try not to let him have much contact, even though he really likes animals.
We took that photo. We went out with the child, and he says,
Mommy, look how ugly it looks there. I tell him, yes, it's because the air is polluted, the sky is polluted, and that hurts you. That's why we told him you shouldn't go out right now during this time, because it hurts so much. The heat right now is in the air. Notice that we do that right now to take care of him. We try not to go outside too much. So because of the heat, you can't be outside, but with so much for his health that he is right now, it's pollution that he breathes. It's all that hurts him.
I took it because it was a nice day for my child to go out to play. As we can see there, the sky looks blue. It's clean. So as my child's caregiver with his respiratory problems, that photo reflects that moment where we have to take advantage of the time for my child to go out and have activities like a normal child. Because it's very difficult in this place where we live with pollution and the climate, it changes drastically from one moment to the next. It changes very quickly. So we have to be looking at the moments so that he can have a little fun.
That photograph shows that the sky is very clear. In these days, we use it to spend time with the family, so that he doesn't have an asthma attack, and he can be outside for a while living together.
Look, we went out again. I go back to that day we had activities outside again because several days had passed since the fire had happened. So we thought that maybe it was a good idea to go out. If you look, it is a little clearer, but there's still smoke. Well, the smoke, whether from a fire or a bonfire at home, always affects his breathing. So I found it interesting the reactions he had when we went out to play because of the pollution that was outside.
He is a very interactive child. He likes to be doing things all day. And since he didn't go to school, well, he couldn't go to school. This day, I also didn't go to work either because on Fridays, I don't work. So I made him do activities to distract himself a little. So he's not thinking about his flu or his allergies.
So an empty desk reflects and reminds me of illnesses. All of this. That's why I took the chair alone, because I said to myself, it's his illness.
This now concludes our virtual photo voice presentation. We want to thank our CAB members, leadership team, our promotoras from Unidas por Salud, and most importantly, our participants who took the time to share their stories with us. Without you, none of this would have been possible. If you would like to continue following our work or would like more information about this project, please scan the QR code on the screen. Thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.